Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to the Lorden Arts channel. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. For today's video, we're doing something a little bit different. This is almost like a very mini, small version of an episode of Brain Scratch. I had a story come up on my newsfeed a few weeks ago, and I wanted to keep tabs on it, sent myself a note about it, didn't see any follow-up, and went looking for some today, and still didn't see any follow-up. And it's really strange because the article I did read about this case almost sounds like the beginning of an episode of Law and Order. There's a lot of very compelling details that happen right off the bat, but then everything just goes quiet on it. Let's go ahead and start over on Twitter, looking at a tweet from South End, the Roxbury Community Partnership, and they're asking a question. What happened to Jessica Lynch of South Boston? District Attorney Rollins, the family is seeking answers. And then on top of that, they've also thrown another question in there. Why has this not been covered on WCVB, NBC 10 Boston, 7 News, Boston Herald? None of the news organizations replied to that tweet, just a few people that were also shocked, especially once they saw the details of this case. So let's go ahead and roll into what I could find about this story. It's not a whole lot, but at legacy.com, we do have an obituary for Jessica Lauren Lynch, age 30, of South Boston, loving mother of Juliana Rose, beloved daughter of F. Daniel and Janet Lynch, survived by many loving aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. Jessica was a beautiful and loving person with a magnetic personality. She loved her family and adored her beautiful daughter, Juliana. Jessica could light up any room with her infectious smile. Despite being taken from us far too soon, she will live forever in our hearts. There are no words that can describe how wonderful a person she was, and we are grateful for the time we had with her. She will be sorely missed by all who knew and loved her. So over at Live Boston, another Twitter account, at Live Boston 617, when officers arrived at Back Bay Station, they found the body of 30-year-old Jessica Lynch of South Boston, who police have still not publicly identified, but has been confirmed to us by friends and family. Let's learn a little bit more about where this is taking place. Back Bay, Boston is an officially recognized neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts, built on reclaimed land in the Charles River Basin. Specifically, where Jessica was found was at an MBTA station. That is the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority. The Back Bay Station address is 145 Dartmouth Street in Boston, Massachusetts. And if we learn a little bit more about that station, it's located just south of Copley Square in Boston's Back Bay and South End neighborhoods. It serves MBTA commuter rail and MBTA subway routes, and also serves as a secondary Amtrak intercity rail station for Boston. So another interesting aspect, just keep in mind, this is basically a hub for 2 railway lines plus subway routes, probably a lot of people that are going through this location on a daily basis, particularly around commute times. Here is the article, once again from Live Boston 617, and I want to thank them for posting this. I'm still surprised that I'm not seeing about this in major publications from the area. We'll talk about that at the end of the video, some possible reasons for that. Family of South Boston woman found in Back Bay MBTA station, still seeking answers. And I just want to be clear about this aspect as well. From both the tweet that we were hearing from the local community organization over at South End, Roxbury Community Partnership, and then now this information from Live Boston, they're being very clear, at least in these call outs, that it's family that's seeking the answers. So it seems to be that some families in contact with these organizations that are reporting on it. The two that basically the only 2 I could find. On Monday, August 2nd, 2021, MBTA Transit Police and Boston police officers responded to a makeshift shelter hidden in the rafters of the Back Bay MBTA station for reports of a woman's body that had been discovered. When officers arrived, they found the body of 30-year-old Jessica Lynch of South Boston, who police have still not publicly identified, but has been confirmed to us by friends and family. Her body was found, according to sources, in what can only be described as a makeshift studio up a 20-foot ladder, complete with electricity, air conditioning, and bedding. So the first thing that I think is a reasonable inference from here is perhaps Jessica did not have a place to live, or maybe for some reason that was a studio that someone else had made up and she's spending time with that person. We're going to find out there's a couple of other people it seems like are involved with this as well. But perhaps, and I don't have solid sources for this, perhaps Jessica might have been struggling with homelessness or something along those lines. Let's continue here. Many questions remain unanswered regarding how she died, prompting the Boston Police Homicide Unit and Crime Scene Response Unit being called in to investigate. And that's another thing. I just want to take a moment and look at these photos that have been captured from here. This is a fairly decent sized response that we have to this. And once again, just I think in terms of asking the question, why, I mean, look, we've got numerous cars out here outside of a public area like that. How is this not getting any coverage? You've got the homicide unit showing up. You've got the crime scene response unit, but that's not all. Boston firefighters were also called in due to the hazardous nature of where the body was located. I want to slow that one down a little bit, and I'm wondering if maybe this is a possibility in this case. The hazardous nature of where the body was located. Are they talking specifically just about the fact that you had to go up a 20-foot ladder to get to this place? Or is there something else that's dangerous about that area? I can't imagine what that is, but some environmental factors or something like that that could be going on in this makeshift studio. Like if there was some types of, I mean, if you're talking about vehicles that are constantly running through this place, is there some type of CO2, and maybe I know that we've been talking a lot about these possibilities because of the Jerish case that we've been looking at over the past several weeks as well. But I'm just wondering, was there some other risk factor outside of it being a 20-foot ladder? Wearing full Tyvek bodysuits, firefighters had to complete a difficult technical removal of the body down the almost 30-foot ledge in order for the medical examiner's office to take possession of the corpse. What's a Tyvek bodysuit? So once again, it just seems to be pointing in that direction, or at least that is a possibility. They're wearing effectively what looks like some type of hazardous material suit to go and recover Jessica's body from this area. So it seems to me like there could be some type of environmental concern there as well. But no doubt, I mean, I'd rather have a firefighter there if they're dealing with, 30-foot ledge, and especially with the type of equipment that they would regularly have with them. It took nearly 5 hours to finish the daunting task of safely removing the body, as well as carefully processing the scene and surrounding evidence. Although the Boston Police Department could only confirm that the transit police were handling the investigation, transit officers and detectives were seen the following week, so a week later, taking at least one man into custody in relation to her death. Now, I wish we had just a little more detail. I can't knock Live Boston 617 because they've got the most detail on this story, obviously. But it's curious that they got that information to come back to them that a week later, a guy was taken into custody and it was specifically related to her death. As a matter of fact, they've got a picture of a guy being hauled off here. Not only that, it also notes that they are searching for another female who is also believed to be related. So with these elements that we're talking about so far in this case, the way they process the scene, the fact that they had the homicide response unit go out there, it sounds like they did a forensic investigation as well once the body was removed. A week later, you have an arrest, and then this note about they're also looking for a female that might be related to this as well. Doesn't this sound criminal in nature to you guys? Like, yes, we have to stay open to all the possibilities. Accidental death of some kind, possibility of self-harm situation or something like that. But the way this is unfolding, at least with the limited details and one source that we have on this, it's really boggling my mind that we're not hearing about this from other major media publications, particularly because Live Boston 617 has relationships with other major media publications. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but let's continue here. Family and friends who reached out to Live Boston are worried that justice will not be served. That's about it for the details. After that, anyone with information that could be helpful in the investigation are strongly encouraged to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-494-TIPS. Of course, we've got that contact information in the description box below as well. You can also text the word TIP to CRIME, which is 27463. Now, obviously, we're not talking about what is known as a major media source. So for us to take that information, I think we also have to balance it against where it's coming from. Who is LiveBoston617.org? Founded in 2014, Live Boston 617 was started as a way for first responders in the Boston area to stay informed about current incidents and share images of them. So originally a mechanism for first responders to communicate. And from there, it kind of expanded and it grew out. Then they had the Twitter account kick up. Then in 2018, we began our transformation into what we are today, a revolutionary nonprofit that is dedicated to working with the city's first responders to showcase their work on a daily basis. Now, in a time where a lot of first responders, particularly for the police department, are having challenges with the perception of them and their work, I think this type of service could be really helpful. And I don't mean in terms of trying to overturn, or I just mean in terms of showing the reality of, on a day-to-day basis, what are these guys doing in Boston in these particular instances. And I really think that that's almost a model that could probably be adopted by other organizations across major metropolitan areas and maybe smaller areas as well, to just help the public have more interface with law enforcement and kind of understanding what's going on with them, as opposed to, you know, the time that we're typically hearing about law enforcement in our media is when something really tragic and awful has happened. So it seems like a really interesting mission to me. I'm really kind of moved by that thought, that that's the perception, the direction of their focus with this organization. Through our community outreach, public relations, photography, and videography services, we help inform the public of what is happening in the city they love, all while helping local departments and unions get the recognition they deserve. Finally, I mentioned it earlier, we are also proud to be the leading freelance media partners for 6 major television news stations in the greater Boston area, providing positive content to them on all things fire, police, and EMS related. So that's what's really interesting about this as well, because you've got this type of case. This is like a headline making case in terms of the basic details of what's reported here at Live Boston. They've got relationships with NBC Universal, the Boston Globe. So how is this not moving forward from here? There seems to be some significant stopping block. No additional information outside of that. I ran Jessica's name every which way I could. Surprisingly, also pretty little social media that I could find related to Jessica as well. Really only a couple of people with their condolences for the family. Outside of that, I just couldn't find a whole lot on Jessica Lynch or what happened on this case. I am wondering if there's some possibility that the family is not engaging with media for some reason. I think there's a couple of different things that could be going on here. One would be maybe there's some factor that is prohibiting the family from really pushing on the media front. The other possibility is maybe there is a factor that is limiting the media wanting to cover this case. And we've kind of looked into these cases enough before to know what some of those factors would be. The homelessness factor, I don't think would completely wave them off. If there was something tied up in that, like possibly some type of serious drug use or something like that, that might, of course, if there was some sex work component, that might also be a factor in major media kind of shying away from this. I'm not saying that any of those are factors in this case. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with this. If by chance the family is out there, first of all, know that our hearts are absolutely broken for you guys. 30 years old. No one expects to lose a family member at the age of 30. If there is an aspect like Live Boston is saying, clearly that family and friends are seeking answers, looking for justice, concerned that they're not going to get it, please reach out to me. You can email me at john@lordandarts.com. I've got a bunch of friends in this social media space. If you're really having trouble and the major media isn't covering this, I can help you in this space very specifically. And who knows, if we raise enough awareness in this space, maybe we can get some of our friends in the bigger media companies to help as well. But I also want to put that address out there in case if there is family out there that's seeing this and saying, no, this isn't what we want to happen, please email me. I will absolutely delist this video when I hear from you guys. It just seems like this is a tragedy, and the message we're getting is families looking for help with this. I'm trying to do what we can with extremely limited information, and I hope that's understood. It may be appreciated, but at least understood. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. If they're looking for help and they're not getting it from major media, I think there's a lot that we can do to help on that front. Outside of that, what's happening around this investigation, looks like they've got one person that was taken into custody. Is there any charges that are filed around that? We have no idea because I don't know that person's name. I've got no real way to search on him. The woman that they were looking for, was she ever located? Is anything happening around that aspect of the investigation? It might be that all these things are rolling. It might be that law enforcement is specifically telling the family, we've got this. Things are already in motion. Don't go to the media. Keep this down. We want to make sure that we're preserving the integrity of the investigation and the information because we know charges are coming on this. I'd be really happy if that's the situation that the family is hearing about from law enforcement, as long as that's what's actually going on with this case. But if we get to 6 months down the road, we don't hear anything about this case at any point. If things change at some point and the family wants to start raising exposure at any time in the future, we're here to help with that. So what do you guys think? Is there something else in this that I'm missing that would stop this information from going out there? We've covered a story like this on Crime After Crime about a guy that was living in between a Toys R Us and a Circuit City. Like, that type of story gets very big traction with major media typically. So that's why it's kind of strange for me to hear about that type of detail in a story of this nature that looks like a criminal investigation and nobody's covering it. Seems like something else is going on. And I'm a little concerned. Is there something about that risk factor, about an environmental risk factor? Are they worried about some big lawsuit that might come towards the city or something like that? I don't know. There might be other factors like that at play here too that are kind of impeding the spread of this information. But let's talk about it in the comments down below. As always, I'm going to ask that we please remain respectful. There's a very good chance the family's going to see this. I want to make sure that the conversation we're having down there is helpful to them and also respectful to Jessica. So I appreciate your help in doing that. Take care, everyone. I'll be back on Friday with a brand new episode of Searchlight right here on the Lord and Arts channel.